frio! Quarenta.
Okay, move that a little bit more. All right, there we go. Oh, did I not hit? Hang on. Did I? Z? Oh, okay. I thought maybe I didn't tap Z twice, but evidently I did. It's just, it's got this weird gap, which I kind of have to close now. Okay. Sorry if you can hear traffic. I am right next to a road. I thought, hey, I need an office. Why don't I get an office right next to a busy road with glass? But I'll be moving out of here soon. Planning to move country, if I can. I won't say where I'm moving to. No, I'm planning to move to the United States, actually. Looking to get a visa because I want to move to LA. LA, it's where all the other YouTubers are. And I don't know, every time I go there, I come back with like a bunch of ideas. And yeah, so I'm moving if I can. Still waiting for a visa to be approved, but we'll see. All right, so I'm just making small adjustments here and there. All right, and the final donut that I will create, take this, I'll just take this bottom one, Shift D, and I'm gonna make a donut which is going to be like rotated to the camera a little bit. So yeah, let's move on one axis, Z here, and it's just gonna be like this. Because this is a much more readable shape that tells you exactly what it is. Because I mean, these stacks could make you believe that maybe it's bagels or like little mini. Donut which is going to be like rotated to the camera a little bit. So yeah, let's move on one axis, Z here, and it's just going to be like this.
Não. É rotate, cara.
Let's move on one axis, Z here, and it's just going to be like this. Because this is a much more readable shape that tells you exactly what it is.
ou seria leite. É.
Because I mean, these stacks could make you believe that maybe it's bagels or like little mini cakes or something like that. So having this one rotated towards the camera makes it very clear that these are donuts. Awesome. Right. Cool. Now, it wasn't supposed to
Perfecto, senhores. Perfecto. Perfecto. Perfecto.
to be that we have round sprinkles on this side and then long sprinkles on this side. That's just because we were duplicating shapes. But because we've done this with geometry nodes, it's really simple to just swap it out to be something else. So this one here, I actually just want it to be the long sprinkles. So in your geometry node dropdown, click long sprinkles, and there we go. It's just swapped it out.
Que louco. Então, clicar aqui. E adiante, meter na papai aqui. Ah! Tem que apertar ali. Deixa no banheiro, tá muito frio. Olha lá. Tá frio pra caramba.
And now I can mix it up.
Eu não tô afim de botar um casaco porque tá sol. Sol bonito, uma nuvem, cara. Pensa num dia bonito pra estar vivo. Pensa. Caraca, tá um dia bonito, cara. Tá um frio. Terminando, né? Porque horas. Hora e 40.
A bit. I can say this one here, I want to have round sprinkles.
Quer mudar tudo. Tá? Tá mudando. Tudo. Mudou.
This one at the bottom, I don't want to have any sprinkles. So it's just a bare donut because those do exist, right?
Aqui é, ele não. De baixo ele tirou tudo, cara.
This one, I'll say round sprinkles on there, and then I'll make this one long sprinkles.
Vou selecionar o de selecionando tudo. Tá dando.
Yeah, and then maybe this one I'll delete it as well. So we get like two plain ones. That's pretty good. And there's a big gap here. I don't know why. How did that happen? What did I do wrong? Evidently I made a big gap.
Yeah. Eu não tenho gaps.
By the way, here's a tip. If you so if you just hit R, you're in like tilt mode. But if you tap double R, so you tap R twice, it's now in trackball rotation mode, which depending on your view can be what you want. So I just go there, double tap R, and I just rotate it towards the camera a little bit and pull it down. Maybe that's what I did. Maybe I lowered the bottom donuts and then the top ones didn't go with it. If you wanted to, you could actually parent the donuts to each other so that when you rotate or move one on the bottom, then it moves the one on the top. But I don't think it's really necessary, and it can be a little bit hard to work with as well. So yeah. Oh, they're now touching. I got to move them apart. Yeah, something like that. Awesome. Now the countertop, I'm going to scale this out until the edges of the countertop, like this edge that is here, and then this edge that are here, are just outside of the frame. Because our camera, I mean, we are going to add a camera animation so that it goes down, but we're not going to be like doing a 360 pan of the donut. So
olha o tamanho desse prato. Caraca! Olha o tamanho do pratinho dele e olha o tamanho. Se bem que aquela plano dele deve ser muito maior, né? E se eu reduzir muito o prato, ele não. E as dimensões dos donuts faz. Legalzinho, viu? Vai. Fazer uma animação.
we're not going to be able to see the rest of the scene. So we don't need a kitchen countertop that stretches all out this way. It's just a waste of resources. So we're just going to literally just stop at the edges of where the camera can see. I used to think when I was starting 3D that that's like lazy, but now I'm like, no, that's like how you use your resources properly. Otherwise you end up doing stuff that nobody ever sees, which is actually a pretty common problem in the industry. People over-engineer models and things just in case the camera needs to be close, and then it never does, and then, yeah, anyway. Now, I do want a backsplash for this, so I'm just going to duplicate the bottom plane here. So Shift-D, pull it out to, you know, roughly there, and then I'm going to hit R, and then X, so I'm rotating it along the X-axis, and then just holding down Control to snap it to the nearest 5-degree increment, and in the top left-hand corner of my screen, I'm just looking for 90. And there it is. So I do a single click, I'll move this up like so, and now we have a backsplash. And the final thing we'll do before moving on to the next tutorial is create some different donut colors. Now you could
Eu queria. Nada me. Aí, o, o, ó, X, 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 90, 90 aí. O Z. Ai. Ah, peraí. Não. Ah, o que é que ela duplicou a câmera? Ah, parece que eu tô dentro da geladeira. Não perdoe. Não, então, nós fizemos errado. Vem pra cá, vem pra cá. Oi. Aí a gente continua. Foi o contrário, né? O dele tá 4 daqui pra lá, o meu dá 4 daqui pra cá, entendeu? Que soninho. Tem muito cedo. Ah, corrida, não. Olha, né? Cara, pior que toda hora, porque
could actually do the same thing as we did for the sprinkles and create that random through color ramp option for this. The trouble I've found with doing it for the donut icings is that you can sometimes just end up with a bad batch where you've got like a string of like yellow donuts and you can't change it because there's no sample option for the random thing. So I find it's better if you haven't got enough objects to instead just manually set up the colors. And it also just allows you to finesse it as more of an artist. So a long way to say, we're gonna create different materials for each of the different icings. So the one that's already there, we'll just call it pink icing. And now, so I definitely want that one to be pink, which means these ones that are directly behind it, I definitely want to be a different color. So I'm going to click the little number to make it a single user, and I'll call this one blue.
Yeah. Icing.
Blue icing. And then the color, I'm going to make it a kind of an aqua-ish color.
O cara tem 4 3090. Rápido. Fala um pouquinho. Azul. Acho que é porque. Caraca. Mas por quê? Ele montou. Eu apertei muito.
Let's go into material select. There we go. This one here, I'm going to make it a yellow icing. So clicking the little number next to it. There we go. Yellow icing. And then
Não! Aqui. Todos eu vou ter que clicar, cara? A minha internet aqui. A minha internet. Mané, tem que acordar meu filho, aguenta aí. Tem aula agora. falar que deu até pra colocar ali no sol, porque tá o totoso.
And about there, that's good. And then this one at the top, I'm going to make it chocolate icing. Click the little number.
Chocolizing. Chocolizing. Choco. Chocolate. Chocolate. Choco. Icing. É marrom, né?
Chocolate icing. Let's go brown.
Brown. Brown. É Então, você bota aqui, depois você baixa aqui. Caraca, ficou um chocolate de respeito.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like how saturated, how warm is chocolate. I mean, I guess you could have like a really desaturated chocolate that's just very dark. But I think it's, the more saturated, it kind of looks like milk chocolate. Like the kind of delicious, not the really super dark stuff, which I do actually like as an adult. Hated it as a kid, but now, I don't know, normal chocolate is just way too sweet. Okay, that. Now the top one, I'll make that one pink. Yeah, that's fine. And then this one, I'll just make it blue icing.
Então. Na verdade, de chocolate ele botou vários. Aí.
And then this one, I'll make it yellow.
Azul.
Icing. Oh wait, now I've got the, yeah, it's blue and yellow. That's not good. So this bottom one, no, the middle one. Yeah, yep, middle one, I'll make it chocolate.
Eu sei, eu reparei isso, mas. Ficou de buenas, hein? Ficou de buenas. Buenas.
Chocolate. Bottom one, I'll make it blue. Just trying to get like a nice, no, I've got pink and pink next to each other. All right, maybe this one will be yellow as well. That's too yellow. All right, maybe the bottom one can be pink. There we go, that's better. All right, so I don't have any like, it now looks more natural, which is just more random, I guess. No, less random, because I'm like manually finessing it myself. So it's less random, but it looks more random in a way. Anyway, finally, before we move on, let's start labeling our objects. So first of all, I want to make sure that my plate is inside of my environment collection. So I will now call this plate. This bottom one, I will call it...
Então, tá? Prato.
Yeah, let's call it counter. And then this back one, I'll call it the backsplash. Backsplash. Awesome. We have done it. Oh, we do need to give a material to our plate as well. Can't just have it as a default material or else it'll look terrible. So, new material. And the first thing I want to do is adjust the roughness and make it look kind of, yeah, shiny like the ceramic plate. Let me just load that up actually one more time. There we go. Use that as my reference. So it's somewhat shiny. And then also I want to give a subsurface because ceramic does actually have a little bit of that, that creamy bleed through of the light. So I'll turn my weight up to 1, radius all set to 1 and then the scale 0.001. So a very small amount of subsurface scattering, and it'll just help it a little bit. The color, I'll also turn down it to make it a little bit not so white, and then I'll make
Fica meio rosa isso aí, irmão.
make it slightly yellow, a little bit yellowy, creamy color, just like over there. If you want,
Oh, sim.
also, you can buy the plate. It's just not a free model, but it will add realism to your scene if you want to have a plate that is actually real and photo scanned and it's got all these little speckled little things and divots across it if you want. It is optional. All right. So that is it, guys. Join me in the next part and we're going to get into...
Acabou essa aulinha aí. Agora botar aquela planta ali. Tá dando vontade de ficar no sol, mano. Ah,
Lighting. I'll see you there. And then God said, "Let there be light."
ele fica nesses donuts. Fica nos donuts. Não é qualquer donut. Não é qualquer donut. Ficou bonitão, hein? É que Leonardo iria fazer um. Leonardo iria. Depois, mais para o cara fazer. Muito maneiro, muito maneiro.
Which is the topic for this tutorial. Now we want to create the look of a morning kitchen countertop. Like you just woke up in the morning, the sunlight's coming in and it's warm and it's inviting. So we want to have some sunlight coming in from the left. Now we could take our default lamp here and turn it into a sun lamp and then try.
Então, ah,
try to angle it like that. But the reason that this looks so terrible is that one of the key components of natural light is not just the sunlight, but the skylight around it. Getting that the right shades of
sai daí, Rock. Pô, tu tá se embolando no fio da internet, Rock. Quer derrubar minhas coisas, Rock Balboa? Pô, aí não, aí tu. Coisa, cara. Pô, Rock querendo derrubar minhas coisas. Então, se tu pegar a luz aqui, ó, pra cá, faz pegar pra lá, ó,
blue and white and the gradient as it goes towards the horizon. And that's actually quite difficult to do. But thankfully, there's a relatively newish feature in Blender which we can use. So rather than using any lamp at all, I'm going to delete the lamps so there is no light in my scene whatsoever, and instead go to my world tab here.
Apagar a luz! Apague a luz! Parado do blackout! Parado do blackout! Vai pra...
And then where we've got color, I'm going to click the little yellow dot and then select sky texture.
Color. Sky.
And what this has added is, besides just the sky texture, it's also added in a sun lamp. So if I rotate around, we should see, look at that, real sunlight coming across it.
Agora eu tenho o sol batendo. Agora. Que soninho, soninho.
Now it is very hot by default. So if you go to your render settings, underneath color management at the very bottom here, you've got an exposure slider, which you use actually quite a lot. You can see the lighting has stayed the same, and it doesn't have to re-render.
Rola. E agora? E agora?
Now it is very hot by default. So if you go to your render
Né?
settings, underneath color management at the very bottom here, you've got an exposure slider, which you use actually quite a lot. You can see the lighting has
Tô bem.
stayed the same, and it doesn't have to re-render anything. This is purely just adjusting, the sensor essentially on your camera. And if you hold down Control, I usually just snap it to a -2. Now back to the sky settings. So what this is,
Pelos dois.
yeah, essentially, it's created the exact look of the sky, a real sunlight, that little sun disk over there, and everything will change depending on what you set, like the elevation, right? If you set it to be like really low in the sky, well, that's like morning light. And you can see it's changed everything.
Eu olhei aqui, ó. Se tu pegar aqui a elevação do Sol, aqui, ó, olha lá, o Sol tá aqui, ó. Olha lá o Sol lá. Olha o Sol ali. Aí se eu reduzir aqui, ó, descendo ali, ó. Olha lá ele descendo, olha lá. Aí, tô me amarrando nesse espaço aí.
To be like a warm look, right? So we got like really warm light over everything. And if you change it to be like noon, like the sunlight is coming directly above it, you can see it's a lot colder. And that's because as the sunlight goes lower in the sky, it's now passing through more of the atmosphere. So it's like decaying the light and you get, yeah, you get like an orangey look. But as it goes more.
Então, se você tiver 10, só ele 10, forte, né? Cold, né?
More vertical, then it's a lot more clearer and cleaner. Anyway, it's a very cool setting that is relatively new in Blender. But yeah, so I'm actually going to leave it at
Bem quentinho. Cara, e o rock tá aqui. Não, não foi. Caraca. Aqui, fica se enrolando. Os fios de internet. Entendeu? Rock Balboa. Seu Rock Balboa. Quase derrubou o fio da minha internet. Ali, ali fora.
at the default at around 15 degrees.
É difícil ficar sentado aqui, que tá uma geladeira. Tá 16 graus aqui no Rio, no sol. Acho que deve ter batido uns 14, 15, sei lá, quando eu fui. Tava devendo.
The one thing I will change though is the sun size. So you get like really, like clean, hard shadows from the sun. And this sun size here, the reason for this very weird measurement, point.
Quer ver como é que tá? Ele tá mandando, tá mostrando, mas tá o sol lá. Tá o sol. Aí se você abaixa aqui, ó, se você 9, e aí dá para tu
0.545 degrees is because it's actually the real sun size in relation to the Earth. But there are reasons for changing that, because if the sun goes through a cloud, then obviously the cloud is now lighting up and it's creating more of a dispersed look. So from the look of the camera, I usually just adjust this to be like a 2 or a 3, and it just makes the sun a little bit softer around the edges. And a little nicer, at least according to me. Awesome. So looks better, but now we have another problem, which is that the skylight is just bleeding in from all directions, right? Because obviously it would. So we need to create an enclosure around it to obviously act as an indoor space. And just before we do that though, whilst I was preparing for this tutorial, I noticed that the donuts are a little close to my backsplash here. And that matters because we're going to use depth of field later to make things that behind it are like out of focus, but we can't really do that if it's too close to the backsplash. So I'm just going to increase the distance there and also just scale it up a little bit because now that it's in the background, yeah, otherwise you'll see like the corners actually appear in the render, which we don't want. So just make that a little bit bigger, move it up. Okay, that's pretty good. So essentially, yeah, you just want to have like 1, 2, 3-ish plate widths, I think will do it. But yeah, something like that. And I also now just want to make sure, just fiddling around with this now, but yeah, this has got to be positioned exactly on the plate as well. Awesome. Okay, so that enclosure. Obviously, to create that enclosure, we are going to be adding in a cube. So Shift A, Mesh, Cube. And I want to scale this down because although it is like a kitchen, right? Nothing outside of the frame is going to be in the shot. So making it bigger than it needs to be. It's just going to add to the render times because then light has to bounce around those things, and yeah, not good. So yeah, something scaled about that. I don't know, something like that. Now, really what I want it to do is just like that corner here, I want it to be locked to this point. Like I want to move it to that point. And previously in Blender, this was a really fiddly process. I would have to tap G and then Z, move along that, and then try and time it here, and then here, tap G and then Y and move it. And it would never be exactly correct. It would always just be slightly off. Well, now there is a new feature in Blender, literally, that came in this release, 4.0, that has changed.
E movimentando até tu conseguir ficar lá no. Vai conseguir. Ferramenta, né? Consegue.
Changed the game. So there was a bunch of snapping improvements. So I will show you them now. So it's actually easy to understand if you just go into wireframe mode. So if I tap G, so I'm moving my cube, if you hit B, it now enters you into a new state called snapping mode. So
Então.
the first thing it's asking you is what is the origin of the object that you're moving that you want to be the snapping point. So essentially, as I mouse over this, you can see the cursor is changing. When it's a circle, that means it's going to snap to that face. If it is a crosshair, that's that edge. If it's a triangle, that's the middle point of the edge, which is sometimes useful. And if it's a square, then that's a vertex. So this is on the object that is selected right now, okay? So I obviously want that corner vertex, so I'm just going to do a single click there. Now, after I've clicked, you can see I'm able to select whichever point in the rest of the scene I want to snap it to. So just like, again, it's a square when it's a vertex. So when I'm on these faces here, right there, I'll do a single click. And there we go. So you can see it's perfectly aligned.
Louco. Então você aperta aqui. E onde tu. Ó. Que loucura, que loucura.
It with the bottom of that that backsplash there. Now it is a little weird. I'll be honest. Like maybe it's more weird because I've been using Blender for so long. Maybe beginners find it a little bit easier. But yeah, like the fact that you're in a move state, then you're hitting B, and you will be moving it, but it's in a snapping mode rather than a placement mode. It is a little weird. And also, just to make it even more complicated, you can hold down Alt at any point and then middle mouse to drag around. Because sometimes you want to snap like that point, but then you need to select a point underneath an object. So you can hold down Alt middle mouse and then find that point and snap it to that. So that's even weirder, but I'm very glad it's in there because it is.
Fala que é muito esquisito pro cara que já faz. É novo. Eu acredito. Ei, só perto. Aí eu acho que teria.
Great, but it is just like takes a little bit to wrap your head around. But I will continue using it actually. So in face select mode, in edit mode, you can see this is too high up. So I can just, I mean, I could try and place it like this.
Assim.
Or I could hit B and then go this point to that point. Same here. G, B, this point to that point.
Ah, tá muito frio.
Yeah, it's pretty useful. I mean, it doesn't have to be this exact. I mean, this is just stuff that's outside of the frame, but anyways. All right, and I'll move this out. So I do need to create a little bit of space here because the camera needs to sit here, obviously. So
Essa aqui, ó.
there needs to be a bit of space there. But if I move inside, you should see some flickering. Yay for flickering. The flickering
Flickering.
is because obviously the cube comes with 6 faces, but we've already got 2 planes right here. And we don't really need those planes. We could actually map a marble texture to the cube, but then you have to deal with UV unwrapping and all that stuff. I find it's actually easier sometimes to just work with planes and use that instead. So instead, with the cube here, I'm just going to remove the 2 faces that I don't need. So the back face and then this bottom face. So selecting those 2 and then hit X, which is another way to delete, and not vertices, that's what we've been doing currently. Instead, hit faces. So it's just deleting those. Those faces. So now you should see you have, it's kind of like an open box, 4 sides, and then the back
Eu fiz.
and the bottom are open. And now what I need is an opening on the left-hand side to be that window. So to do that, I'm going to cut into it so that I get a little bit of gap here on the left-hand side to be like the gap between the wall and the window, and then another gap here between the bottom of the countertop, and So I'm going to inset, and for that tool it's I. So I for inset, and it's now kind of like it's shrinking that face into itself. And you're just like choosing its scale essentially. I'll hold down Shift to get a more precise movement, and about there. That's pretty good. And now I just delete that face. face. So again, X and then faces. Awesome. So we should now see this, which in rendered view mode rendered view mode should hopefully look okay.
Mais rápido que 4, 3090. Soltar aqui do outro lado. É. Tá vendo aqui?
Yeah, not bad. Now this window frame here, it really is just acting like the control for the light. So if I want, I can much more precisely place this. Like I don't want that much light coming in, you know, creating all that light on this side of the wall there. I can also say maybe I need more space here so that I've got a little bit of darkness so I could put some things in the background without them falling into light. And then this bottom face here, sorry, this bottom edge, this is going to control where the light starts in the scene, right? So if it's like all the way down here, then it's, yeah, anyways.
O cara consegue controlar tudo. Agora, o meu problema é, cadê o som? Tá parecendo que eu tô aqui. Ó. Ah, ele tá aqui.
You get the idea, just sort of shaping the light. Awesome. And now with the camera selected, I'll just move this down a little bit, angle it up. There we go. Awesome. I mean, you can also just do this in fly mode, shift tilde key, but I like hitting the R tool and then just selecting the axes, and I can just tilt the camera exactly where I want it. Awesome. So much better. We've controlled the skylight, so the skylight is no longer coming in, but we have uncontrolled lighting in the sense that this wall here that's over here that is supposed to represent the rest of the kitchen is hitting and receiving all of that sunlight, and it's just filling in all of this space on the right hand side. And that's not good because we want shadow. Shadow is actually a good thing. It helps reveal form. A lot of new artists, like, they get scared of shadow. They try and like fill everything in and light everything. You do want shadow. Shadow is a good thing. So all this uncontrolled space is not good. So essentially we need to do just like what you would do in the real world, and that's to create a, like what a photographer would do. They make like a black fill card, right? And that's just to essentially stop bounce lighting from hitting the subject. So it's a good excuse to learn about a new feature. So with the cube selected, if I go to the materials and then hit new, we're going to keep the white material for everything else, right? White
White.
walls, but then I can add another material right underneath this one by hitting the plus button, then adding another material, and I'll call this one black wall. And I actually will change the shader from principled to a much simpler diffuse. It's just easier for cycles to calculate than a full principled one. And then this, I'll just change the color to be really dark, almost black. All right.
Aí. Ah,
And now in edit mode, I'm going to go face select. And I'm going to select that one wall that I want to have the black wall material to. And then here I select it from the material list, black wall, and then hit assign. And importantly, you
marrom.
won't see the assign select, these buttons. They'll only appear when you're in edit mode. So if you don't see it, it's because you're not in edit mode. So in edit
Ah, tá. Os dois.
mode, select the face, then you'll see it and hit assign. And now look at that, we have much more control. And in fact, because this light, this sunlight is hitting this this wall and it's currently dark, this color here now becomes almost like the control for how much fill light I want on the right-hand side of the donuts. So the brighter it goes, the more fill light I get. Yeah, just a very simple way to control that lighting a bit.
Isso.
The more fill light I get. Yeah, just a very simple way to control that lighting a bit better. Awesome. That's looking pretty good. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the sun intensity. So there's a separate measurement here just for intensity. Now you could drop the intensity of the whole sky texture as well, but when you do that, it also drops the sky texture, right? And so I found it was like for a while when the feature came out, I was like it was very hard to control. But I realized like if you keep the strength at 1, but then you reduce the sun intensity, you could like, for example, reduce the sun intensity like by a lot and then increase your exposure. And then it's like the sunlight is there, but it's a lot softer, right? It's not like so overbearing. But essentially what I want to do, I'm going to set this sun intensity to 0.5. So it's half.
Mas se você fizer. Como é que. Então, pode lá, e aí você coloca na exposição para ele ficar mais.
Half of its brightness, but the sky texture has full brightness, so it's just a little, a little less hot, essentially. Awesome. Now, 2 things I will show you before we close this tutorial.
Ainda falta ainda. Isso foi só a parte de luz, né? Dá vontade de ficar no sol. Eu tenho no sol.
tutorial, which can be useful to know. One is how to import a model, okay? Because although as a beginner, it's good to understand modeling tools and know how to build things, when you start building scenes, it's very common, professional artists in studios, to just make use of model libraries because there is so much you need to model and basically.
Agora ele deve estar falando das parece, né? Aprender a usar.
Fill in to create a realistic, believable scene. It's just too much for one artist to do. So it's very common to make use of model libraries. So what I want you to do is click the link in the description and you will find this model, the wood utensils, which we're going to put in the background. Is a free model and it's available in multiple softwares. The one we're looking for is the Blender file. So hit download on that, and then just like before, unzip the file that you receive and
Caraca.
inside it you should see a bunch of textures and then one .blend file. Then we're going to go to File. You would think import, but actually this is for external file extensions, like not blend files. If you want to import a blend file, it's actually the append option. Okay, so now we select that .blend file, double click it, and now we're actually reading the blend file. We're reading the information inside that blend file, and it's saying, what do you want to import? Do you want to import just a single object from that blend file? Do you want to import a texture or a material perhaps? But in a lot of cases, if it's just a blend file that contains like one model, it's often going to be in a collection, a single collection. So go into collection and then just click the one that's there and then hit append. And now, even though there is multiple
Yeah. Aquele aqui, gente.
objects as part of this, it's just brought in all of them and it's put it into a collection already, utensils jar 001. So now I'm just going to move this into the back of my scene and that's it. So that's how to import data from one blend file into another. It's going a little slow for me. I'm going to move that. There we go. So I just want it, yes, somewhere in the background. like that. The other thing I want to show you how to do is how to install an add-on. Because although you might think that's kind of like an advanced user thing, you will very quickly realize that a lot of workflows rely on add-ons. So add-ons are very powerful and there's a lot of them out there, and it's not actually clear how to install add-ons to beginners. So I thought I would include that. So obviously we're going to use the Polygon add-on. I mentioned this earlier. It just lets you like
Ah, eu já instalei. Caraca, tá muito frio. Não sei por que não aparece. Olha lá como é que tá. Vamos.
download and import objects with one click. And there's a bunch of free models in here as well, so you can actually get started with those and do some interesting things. Click the link in the description. This will take you to the download page, and you're just looking to download that.
Ah. Ah. Você...
Great, so you can see it's downloaded a single zip file. And importantly, you do not want to unzip that zip file. And the reason is that Blender installs add-ons from the zip file that is unextracted. So to install an add-on, you go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons.
Ah, por isso.
And then at the top, click on Install.
Não, não. Não.
Then locate where you downloaded the zip file, just that there, and then you just hit Install. And now if it's correct, if it's like found and located an add-on inside that zip file, it should then automatically take you to the name of that add-on.
Tem um botão. Ah, deu algum bolo aqui. Ah, tá. O download. Aonde fica o download? Aqui agora.
In the search, so you just have it there. And then to enable it, you just do a single click to check it, and it's now enabled. Now, obviously, every add-on will have a different way of accessing it, but commonly they are in the sidebar, which is exactly where the
Aí, o que tá aparecendo? Agora, como é que sai daqui? Eu instalou o Polygon.
polygon one is. So you'll see the tab here. They might actually be changing the sidebar at some point in the future, but for now, this is, anyway, how it is. So then just go log in via browser. It's going to take you to the website. It'll say login confirmed. Return back to the add-on, and you can type in free, and you can see a whole bunch of different assets there. So actually one that I will import, if I go to my models section and then go to vegetation, there's a bunch of different plants here.
Aí, a outra. Botar as plantas.
Yeah, there's like 4 free ones, I believe, so you can use one of those. I'm going to be using a paid one, just this spider one I thought looked quite nice.
Só que aí eu acho que deve ter algum. Ok,
Import. If I go to my models section and then go to vegetation, there's a bunch of different plants here. There's like 4 free ones, I believe, so you can use one of those.
aqui, ó. Aquela ali, ó.
I'm going to be using a paid one, just this spot.
Spiders. Spiders are into every of the moon. It was eu travando aqui. Não dá para A dele tá, né? Porque tem o. Porta 2K? Não tá grande, mano.
Spider one I thought looked quite nice. But yeah, you can access one of these free ones if you want to. And there we go.
Sabe que fica a marcação. Ah!
Go. Awesome. So this is our render. We are nearing the finish line. I can feel it. We're getting close. So join me in the next part. We're going to dive into the composition and then animation and then the final render. So click.
Ah. Tá aqui, papai fez. Ah! Papai fez. Boa noite. Sofá, mas não tem uma mesa. Trouxe, irmão? Tá contigo não? Mas tá contigo não? Sei, mas não tá em casa, não? Não, tô falando o nome. Que tá onde? Tá? Mas ficou com ela ou tá? Tá bom. Então, tá? Ai, meu papai do céu. Ah, agora foi cozinhando na caixotinha, sol, não. Só que tá muito frio. Não tô a fim de botar um casaco, tá sol. Vou botar um casaco.
Click here and I'll see you there. We are on the home stretch. Well done for sticking with the series. It's a lot of work, a lot to retain, but well done for sticking with it. Now, a couple of things before we jump into compositing, the fun compositing stuff. I noticed a couple of things that I could tweak to the lighting just to improve it. And it's important we do it now because what we're going to do next relies on the lighting being correct. So the first is I noticed that the light rotation, it would be a little bit better. If I rotated it so it's almost like a 90-degree like completely side on to the donuts. So that's pretty simple change. The other one I noticed is that I'm getting this like kind of ugly bounce light coming off this, both the plate and the table. So to fix that, I can just move, right? Go into edit mode, edge select mode, select the edge of this window. And then if I just drag it, you'll see that the light just disappears off the front. Just move, right? Go into edit mode, edge select mode, select the edge of this window. And then if I just drag it, you'll see that the light just disappears. Off the front there. And now I have controlled the light. Now, the other thing, speaking of control, I noticed looking at this wall, like I was trying to tweak it and just try to improve it, but this is like a huge source of light, right? And so if you look on our donut,
Não!
and instead go to my world tab here, and then where we've got color, I'm going to click the little yellow dot and that. The other thing I want to show you how to do is how to install an add-on, because although you might think that's kind of like an advanced for what you see in the real world, which is glare, right? If you've got a shiny metallic, we are on the home stretch. Well done for sticking with the series. It's a lot of work, a lot to retain, but well done for sticking with it. Now, a couple of things before we jump into compositing, the fun compositing stuff. I noticed a couple of things that I could tweak to the lighting just to improve it. And it's important we do it now because what we're going to do next relies on the lighting being correct. So the first is I noticed that the light rotation, it would be a little bit better if I rotated it so it's almost like a 90-degree, like completely side on to the donuts. So that's pretty simple change. The other one I noticed is that I'm getting this like kind of ugly bounce light coming off this, both the plate and the table. So to fix that, I can just move, right? Go into edit mode, edge select mode, select the edge of this window. And then if I just drag it, you'll see that the light just disappears off the front there. And now I have controlled the light. Now the other thing, speaking of control, I noticed looking at this wall, like I was trying to tweak it and just try to improve it, but this is like a huge source of light, right? And so if you look on our donut, it's not very controlled, right? I could either, if I want to fill in this space, I could increase the brightness of that wall, but you can see it throws light just everywhere, and I don't really have any control over it. So change my mind. Let's not use that as a fill source. Let's just drop the value to 0. So there is now no light coming off of that wall. It is a black void, which is actually pretty, I mean, that's like a photographer holding up a black fill card next to a face. And instead, excuse me. Okay. Quick break there. Had to get a drink of water. Instead, I'm going to add in a lamp, okay? So I'm going to shift right mouse click so that I drop it on the ground here in front. Sorry. To the side, and then I'm going to go Shift A, and I'm going to add in not a point lamp, not a sun, but an area lamp. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It looks like a plane, right? Flat square thing, and it casts it in the direction of that arrow. So I want to rotate it along the y-axis.
Pra cá, vem pra cá.
Just holding down Control, and in the top left you can see we get a 90-degree angle, so that's what I'm looking for. And then
Tá rodando. Filmando.
in the top left you can see we get a 90-degree angle. So that's what I'm looking for. And then the size of this, I want to drop the size in the setting there. Okay, so I just can go really small actually. And now, if I pull in close with rendered view mode, we should see a lot more control over where that fill. The light goes. All right, so I can pull it in. Nice and close, right? Now that's obviously way too bright, so I'll just now dial that back like so. And I can now pull it forward. So that I get the fill light exactly where I want. But that's, you know, that's 3D, right? You try out an idea. You're like, okay, that could work. And then you look at it and you're like, maybe not. You know, I'll try a different one. But yeah, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a yellowy tint.
Aqui é
3D, right? You try out an idea, you're like, okay, that could work. And then you look at it and you're like, maybe not. You know, I'll try a different one. But yeah, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a yellowy tint. And that's better. Awesome. Okay, so now we can do some compositing. First of all, what is it? Well, the compositor is a way to add effects to the final render.
Tá, e aí agora que de botar
So that could be
Yeah.
everything from a simple color grade to like really stylized renders. So in our case, we're going to use it to add glare to better emulate a camera. That's really the purpose for this tutorial. So at the top of your screen, click on the Compositor tab. So this will arrange your screen again, disorient you for a moment. But yeah, wouldn't you believe it? It's another node screen. So click Use Nodes at the top there. For whatever reason, they always appear off your screen, at least in my case, maybe it appears on yours. But if you middle mouse up or just scroll down, you should be able to see it. Or you can just hit the home key as well, and that'll bring it into focus. So it's actually pretty similar to like geometry nodes in that on the left-hand side, this is your original, like what you've started with, your original render. And then on the right-hand side, it's going to be your final output. Like that's what's going to be saved to an image. And then in between here, you can put whatever it is you want. You could put a color grade. You could do some post-processing glare and shine and things like that. But before we can see anything, because normally you would see your results here, we can't for two reasons. The first is we haven't done a render, okay? It's not enough to just look in like rendered view mode here, right? This is just like a temporary view whilst we're moving around. We have to do a proper render by hitting F12. But if we did one right now, we'd be waiting a while because the maximum samples is 4,000, which is it's probably pretty good for like film animation production quality, but it's overkill, and especially for this, like we're just doing some test renders. So let's set it to 100 samples. And that'll do it way faster. So now let's hit F12 on that. There we go. So that came through for me 7 seconds. Again, I got 430/90s. It'll probably be a little slower if you're on a laptop, but yeah, just be patient. It'll come through. Now go to the compositing tab, and we still can't see it because we need to add a viewer node and connect it to this. And you can do that just by holding down Control, Shift, and then left clicking on your render layer. And now we have a viewer node. And then left clicking on your render layer.
Apareceu não.
And now we have a viewer node, and in the background we have our render.
Ih, vai demorar. Quatro. Ele desceu 3 minutos. O cara demorou 7 lento. Vai, filha. Ó, por quê? É porque ah, assim, porque ah, Doideira, gente. No tamanho da tela, sabe? Tem. Caraca, peraí. Não, 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 não. Tá. Tá renderizando. Renderizado e renderizado. Bom, agora que a gente vai fazer aquela parada lá do... Ah, o dele, o dele ficou pequenininho.
So some people find it like a little weird to have the render in the background. You can move it around just by holding down Alt and then middle mouse button, and then middle mouse button will move your nodes around. So Alt.
Que eu não, o meu... Que o meu tá... Não.
Alt, middle mouse button for the background, and then middle mouse for the nodes. Anyways, as a very quick example, let's do a simple color adjustment. So adjustment, color balance, right? Drop this in here. Now, if you just dropped it into your viewer node, then this would be just what is going to be shown in the background here, but it wouldn't be saved in your render until it went through your composite node. But for just this quick effect, it's good enough. So this is a graders know exactly what this is, but it's for on the left hand side your blacks, right? Your midtones is in the middle, and the right hand side is your highlights. So if I wanted to make I don't know, like a cooler midtone and then like a warmer highlight, right? And then I don't know, something for the blacks, like make it more green. I don't know, just make something horrible. You could do it here. You could make simple color adjustments. You could do it there. And your original render hasn't changed. This is just a post-processing step. But actually, on the note of making things look more contrasted and punchy, I wouldn't actually bother with the color balance node. We used to, but now Blender has some pretty good color management. So I'm going to hit Control X on that to just remove it, but retain its connection. And then if you go down in your render settings to color management, there is a look drop down here. So if you set this to high contrast, that's exactly the same as like what we were doing there, like trying to like increase the highlights or reduce the midtones. It's a very common thing to try and make something look punchier. And these looks will do that, but do it really well. A lot of people make the assumption that this is like, you shouldn't use these, or it's gonna like mess with the colors in some way. And like other applications, true. A lot of like art apps, they just, you use one of their contrast settings and it just starts like clipping highlights and things. But this was designed by Troy Sobotka, who understands color science and color management. So it's a proper S-curve. You won't have any clipping going on. So I use this all the time. Usually the one I go for is a medium high contrast look, and it just makes a really nice looking result. By the way, just a quick mention, in 4.0, this version of Blender, we switched the view transform to AGX, which creates more realistic looking images, because previously it was on Filmic and it looked like this. And you can see the difference is AGX it just looks more real. But the reason for that is that Filmic was, and actually the same with Aces right now. The film, like the one, the Academy, all the people in VFX using everything, it's got this same problem. But when you've got color, the more exposed a color is, it should actually start to desaturate. But what Aces and what Filmic was doing is that it was making that color more and more saturated. So that's why these bright colors here are just starting to get ugly, right? But AGX fixes that, and it starts to behave more like film, where it desaturates those colors as it exposes for it. So very cool, and I'm glad that they've got that. While I'm here as well, I'm just going to increase the exposure a bit. It's going to blow it out a little. Anyway. We'll fix it a bit with the lighting later. But anyways, okay, back to the compositor. So one thing that I often use the compositor for is for what you see in the real world, which is glare, right? If you've got a shiny metallic object, a bumper or something like that, you want to have that starburst, right, coming off it, because that's what you see in the real world. You see it both with your eyes, like if you squint at something in the distance, you'll see like like this kind of like starburst around like a street light at night. That's actually because of the eyelashes on your eye. But on a camera, it's for a different reason. It's because of the optical elements. It's kind of like refracting around itself, and it's creating this starburst look. I don't understand it fully, but I know that it's an artifact which has artistic use as well. So we are going to add it. It is a little fiddly, I'll be honest. Like other software, they just have a button and it just like adds the bloom and the glare and stuff. We have to do this for now. So Shift A. We probably could if more people donated to Blender, right? We could have stuff like this. But anyways, so not to
Eita!
guilt you all. Filter, glare. Okay, and that was Shift A, by the way. Same hotkey works everywhere. And drop this in. Okay, so we've got
Caraca, eu não tô. Nossa, o homem é a imagem. Agora para errado isso. E dois aqui. Correto, correto, correto.
Little starburst. We've only got 4, which is not ideal. We want as many as we can get, really. So drag it up to 16. That's better. Now, there's 2 values here you really want.
Ele botou 16. Brilhante.
Want to change. The first is the threshold. That'll decide how much of the image is affected. Like, as I drag this up in value,
Mais. Agora. Iteration, angle, fix. Eu não tenho aquele trouxa. E agora? Tem mais. Ah,
it means only the really bright stuff is going to be affected. If you dragged it really low, then like everything is going to give off a starburst, and it's not going to be what you want. And the other one is the mix value. So if you drag it all the way to 1, then it's going to be just the effect by itself. If you drag it all the way to -1, it's going to be the original render. So if you wanted a nice blend between it, you could go like a -0.9.
mix. Mix. Será que esse ânimo até dividir. E disse 5, eu tenho que ir lá levar o João, cara, no colégio. Vou parar por aqui, vou salvar. E amanhã. Hoje nós fizemos o quê? Eles, minha, sol, sol. Sol batendo aqui, botamos minhas. Abraço.